Hello, class, and welcome to the fourth installment in the Nationalism series. In this, we're going to take a look at another empire that's going to have a lot of trouble with nationalism, and it's for all the same reasons that we've been discussing before, but I'm trying to give you as many examples as possible. So let's take a look. This is known as the Ottoman Empire. Everything that you see in green, from the Balkans, which is up here, all the way to Greece, which is right here, through the Middle East, through the Arabian Peninsula, and all of northern Africa. That's known as the Ottoman Empire. It's an Islamic Arab empire that was started out of this region here, and they spread for hundreds of years. This was an empire that existed during the Roman Empire and then was actually influential in destroying much of the Roman Empire during its collapse in around 700 AD. Since then, the empire has been strong, it's been united, and has been one of the greatest forces the world has ever seen. Even though we don't study it too often, it is a hugely influential empire. Also, if you look at the world at this time, it is one of the largest empires, and also one of the last remaining major empires from the Middle Ages. Because of this empire, because of the size of this empire and the strength of this empire, it has been able to maintain itself for hundreds of years, where other empires like the Roman Empire and the Greek empires and the French empires and all those other empires have collapsed. The Ottoman Empire has been able to use religion and also a very strict code in order to enforce its rule. So if you look at this empire, I want you to think in your head for just a few seconds and probably pause the video if you could. Think about, what do you think the problem would be with an empire this size? We're talking thousands of miles. So what is the problem with such a large empire, and what problems do you think they would face? Take a few seconds, pause the video, and try to jot some things down. Alright, go ahead and bring it back. Let's talk about this a little bit. Now, the problem with an empire this large is the fact that all these people that are within this region are not going to have the same belief systems. They're not going to have the same ideas about how rulers should be, and they're also not going to have the same ethnicities. So the problem that we're going to see is much the same as the Austrian Empire, but in a much larger scale. There are too many different ethnic groups here. There are too many different people that all have different ideas about the world. If you go up here, you have Greeks, Bulgarians, Slovenians, Slovakians, Serbians, all these people up here. There's like 4 or 5 different major ethnic groups here. You've got the Egyptians down here, you've got Jews over here, you've got Turks. Up here you have the Kurds. I mean, all these different people are all different ethnic groups. Now, if you remember from our previous talks, ethnic groups want their own country. Ethnic groups want their own country. Ethnic groups want their own country. It's a common theme across the entire chapter. Now, these ethnic groups, as we kind of move through this era in history, are all going to start fighting against the Ottoman Empire to try to create their own countries. Now, because there's so many different ethnic groups that all want their own countries, the Ottoman Empire is going to have a lot of trouble trying to fight all those rebellions with military force. Now, that would be okay if that's all they had to do. However, they've got a very large empire, and I'll just go back for a second just to show you. They've got a very large empire just to their north that is threatening them at all times. And yes, I'm talking about up here, even though it says Ottoman Empire. Up here is the Russian Empire. So the Russians see all these nationalistic fights against the Ottoman Empire, and they go, wait, here's an opportunity to take what we need to make our empire stronger. Now, what I'm talking about is the Russians have a very deep problem. They have a very big problem that they've been trying to solve for like 100 years now. The Russians want to become a modern empire. Now, if you remember from the French Revolution, we talked about how Napoleon invaded Russia. Well, the reason why the Russians didn't just go ahead head to head and fight them was because they didn't have enough men. Also, their weapons were inferior, their technology was inferior. So since then, they've been wanting to try and find a way to advance their military, advance their technology. The problem is that it's really cold in Russia, like year round. And because it's really cold, all the sea lanes, all the way that they can trade, is only by horse and carriage or train. That's the only way they can trade. Now, if you really want to advance your trade around the world, you need to find a way to ship things places around the world. The problem with Russia is that they do not have what's known as a warm water port. A warm water port is a port that stays open. It doesn't freeze over at all during the year. All of Russia's ports right now freeze over for about 9 months of the year. So Russia can only use its ships for about 3 months out of the year, which is just amazing. During those 3 months, they can trade with the United States and Japan and the rest of Europe and South America, but for the other 9 months, no ships in, no ships out. So what the Russians want is they want a warm water port, and they see an opportunity. With the Ottoman Empire in trouble, they look to this region right here. This region right here is known as Crimea. And as you can see, it's attached to something called the Black Sea, and the Black Sea links up with the Mediterranean Sea. This is a warm water port. So they're going to launch a war known as the Crimean War. They're going to attack this region of the Ottoman Empire. So while the Ottoman Empire is trying to defeat nationalistic groups within its empire, it's also going to have to fight against the Russian army in the Crimean region, which is not necessarily the closest place to the heart of their empire down here. They have to go all the way up and use their navies and use their large armies to try to defeat the Russians. Well, it's really complicated, but overall, Russia's going to go to war against the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is going to seek out some help from France and Great Britain, who are going to realize that the Ottoman Empire is a huge ally, and they don't want Russia to get any stronger than they already are getting. So they're going to fight with the Ottoman Empire against Russia to try to defeat Russia. The actual details of the war are not really that important. However, it was 2 years long, cost a whole lot of casualties, but overall, the Russians are going to be stopped by the British, the French, and the Ottoman Empire from conquering that territory. But think about that. That's 2 years of war, hundreds of thousands of people killed. So the Ottoman Empire is getting weaker and weaker by the year. And as it gets weaker and weaker, other groups are going to try to revolt and also try to seek independence. For instance, the Serbians up here, the Bulgarians, the Romanians. This is all part of the empire. The Albanians here. And so they're going to launch a series of wars known as the Balkan Wars. And the Balkan Wars is again going to be another attempt by Russia to try and conquer a warm water port. This time, instead of trying to conquer Crimea, which is actually right up here, they're going to go for the heart of the Ottoman Empire. They're going to go for Constantinople. So Russia's going to invade through the Balkans. They're going to gather support from the Bulgarians, the Romanians, the Albanians, and they're going to almost conquer Constantinople until the rest of the world steps in. There's going to be a Congress known as the Congress of Berlin, in which France, Great Britain, the German Confederation, Spain, Portugal, the Ottoman Empire, they're all going to meet with Russia and say, Russia, stop doing what you're doing. Let Constantinople stay with the Ottoman Empire. If you don't, we're all going to go to war with you. Great Britain, France, the German Confederation, Spain, Portugal, they're all going to go to war against you, and we will crush you. Well, Russia realizes that if they all go to war with him, they're not going to do well. So they give up most of their land, and they give up their attempts to get a warm water port right away, until here in a few years the Ottoman Empire is actually going to collapse completely, and they are going to take that Crimea region from the former empire. What happens else at the Congress of Berlin is that the rest of the nations realize that the Ottoman Empire is collapsing before their very eyes. So they decided it would be important to give some of those regions that were super rebellious to other empires to try to prevent the collapse of this empire. So they actually give the Serbian region, as here, I'll go back. They give a lot of this region up here. They give that to the Austrian Empire and say, hey, you take care of this now because the Ottomans are having a lot of problems with it. It turns out that they're just going to rebel against the Austrians anyway. So they give no consideration for ethnic groups, of course, just like they always do. I mean, look, it's a whole lot of white people determining the fate of all these different ethnic groups at one time. So overall, in just a very short amount of time, from the early 1800s until the 1900s, the Ottoman Empire is going to weaken considerably as all these different groups from across various areas decide to go ahead and pull away from the Ottoman Empire and wage war. That, coupled with the fact that Russia's going to invade twice, is going to cause a lot of problems for the Ottoman Empire. So much so that they're going to have to take on some reforms. Not very drastic reforms, but still reforms nonetheless. And in the end, what we're going to see in just a few years, the fact that the Ottoman Empire is going to shrink considerably, and it's going to be a huge problem for them for a long time. So just an overview for you again. The Ottoman Empire was a very large and multicultural empire, which means they had a lot of different ethnic groups. All these ethnic groups want their own country, so they're going to tear away piece by piece at the Ottoman Empire. That would not be too big of a deal because the Ottoman Empire is so strong. However, the Russians also invaded them twice, trying to secure what's known as a warm water port, either through the Crimean region or through Constantinople. That, coupled with the civil war, the nationalistic movements in their nation, is going to cause the Ottoman Empire to eventually collapse. The Ottoman Empire will not collapse until right after World War I. So if you look there, it says 1900. They'll have themselves probably another 20 years of existence before there will no longer be an Ottoman Empire. There will just be all these nations of the Middle East. This is the end of video number 4. We are going to continue the nationalism talk with one more video talking about Russia and the rise of Marxism. But overall, we are nearly done. Thank you again for paying attention, and I will talk to you guys later.